welcome back to New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. We're kicking off the week being joined by singer-songwriter Mercy Bell. Earlier this month, August 6th to be exact, Mercy released Golden Child. It's such an interesting and rewarding set of songs. These have been some of my favorite to unpack and explore from this past year, which this conversation with Mercy was really no different. It's so insightful, and I absolutely loved hearing stories behind some of those songs and why and how she's gotten to this place as a writer and artist. These songs, they live and they breathe on their own merit, but all the commentary and thought that she provides in this is just that additional context for the stories that are being told here and the points that are being made. I just love a lot of the declarations made on this album. It's exploring a lot of parts of the American experience that aren't necessarily always represented in American culture. As I point out during this conversation, I feel like her cutting the Springsteen song Atlantic City is Mercy really just saying that these stories and these folks that she's writing about, that they are a part of this experience. They have ownership to these American folk songs too. Anyway, we talk about Golden Child and the creative process at length on this one, and I think you're going to enjoy all the things that Mercy says during this one. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Soto. If you've been listening to New Slang for really any amount of time, you'll know that Desert Door is one of my all-time favorite premium, high-quality spirits. If you haven't or aren't sure what exactly a Soto is, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's going to up the game on your liquor cabinet. For starters, the best reference point that I can point you to is to think about a tequila or a mezcal. Do you feel that Western desert, that Texas ruggedness? Okay, Soto is like that, but a little bit more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It intrigues the palate and offers these hints of vanilla and citrus. There's an earthiness that often sends me right back to my Trans-Pecos and far west Texas roots. There's plenty to love about Desert Door. For me, it all starts right there. A close second is just how versatile Desert Door really is. You can go full highbrow and experiment with concocting a variety of cocktails that call for muddling fresh fruit, sprigs of thyme, sticks of cinnamon. It's perfect for that world. If you're a little bit more down home, if you've just rolled up the sleeves of your denim Wrangler button-up, it's perfect for that as well. If you're just desiring something that's short and sweet, it hits the mark every time. Desert Door is genuine and authentically West Texan. It's inherently West Texan. They harvest Soto plants out in the wild and are knowledgeable conservationists at heart. That's obviously something incredibly important to me. They shine a light on what makes West Texas special and unique and worth preserving and keeping it safe from exploitation. Right now, you can find Desert Door all over Texas, Colorado, Tennessee, and there's budding numbers in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Georgia. Best thing you can do is to check out desertdoor.com to find where Desert Door is locally. Again, that's desertdoor.com. Okay, I promise that we'll get on into the conversation with Mercy here in 2 seconds, but first, if this is your first time listening to New Slang, I think it'd be a wonderful idea if you hit that subscribe button. New Slang is available anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and so on. Just hit that subscribe button wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. Just a couple of Fridays back, I announced my debut book is coming out this September. It's called The Lubbock Way. It's a collection of short stories, thoughts, and insight on the Lubbock music scene circa 2015 to 2017. Right now, you can pre-order it over in the merch store. Currently, this first edition is going to be limited to 500 copies unless really like a miracle happens where, 10,000 people order the book or something. I'm trying to manifest that, hopefully. One can hope, right? But what I'm saying is that even though 500 sounds like a lot, it's going pretty quickly. So go ahead, pre-order one right now while you have the chance. Speaking of which, plenty of other cool stuff in the merch store that you can get as well. Go ahead, pick up a t-shirt, a coffee mug, something. All right, those links as well as ones to the New Slang Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and so on will be in the show notes. Okay, let's get into it. Here is Mercy Bell. as I feel like I start every one of these damn podcasts off with, is the natural places to start is obviously you have Golden Child out just last week. And let's start there. I guess like this is like probably my first proper introduction to you as an artist. And I just really liked a lot of the character development on this EP in these songs. I really liked how, I don't know, there's something that you do that I find really intriguing as a writer. And that is like, sometimes like you're really, really just, you throw out something to describe someone or a situation, and it's just like you're capturing the scene or that person in a really, really kind of like matter-of-fact way, or even like in a blunt way. But then also you will describe something in a way that makes the listener really have to think about what you're saying at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I really like that balance, if you will. Obviously, that's something that, I don't know if you're intentionally trying to do that and you're consciously thinking of that as you're writing a song or anything like that. But what I guess, like, is that something that you've noticed in your own writing or anything, or that's been intentional, or that you've wanted to work on as an artist?
Yeah. So I originally started writing like I studied briefly. I wasn't like an English major or anything, but a lot of short stories, prose and poetry. And in that realm, in that world of short stories, so like a huge influence of mine is Flannery O'Connor. And she's, this really epic Southern Gothic writer. And everything about her was to describe what you see, but there's like a whole world of an iceberg underneath it. So it's like, I don't know how to describe it without going into like literary terminology, but it's kind of, I'm trying to think of like a really obvious, it's the idea of show me, don't tell me,
Right.
but it's like, what are you showing? You're showing, I don't know. I guess you're the first person to ever ask me this, so I haven't had to like explain it since probably like my college days. But but it is completely intentional. I really only describe people if I can also, if there's something seething underneath. Seething might not be the right word, but something percolating underneath there too. So it is 1000% intentional.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like maybe the even just like the way you start off the very first song, that first line, it's so jarring. And I think like a lot of people think of like easing into a record, and there it's just like that line, of course, Plan B and a Gatorade, another Walgreens on a Sunday. Like it's just, we're in it. And there's
Yeah.
something really, really refreshing about that, where it's kind of like a bold move, and not just like even for a record or anything like that, but like just as for a line in a song, it hits you in a way that you're like, oh, okay, well let's try and like figure out who this character is. And I don't know, I think that's a refreshing aspect of your writing.
I mean, I'm going to give a little background. Like, so when I wrote that line, I was thinking about, obviously it delves into like a really personal realm of things for a lot of people. But I was reminded of this time I was bartending, and the night before, this woman was like, I had to cut her off because she was like so drunk, and I had to cut her off. And like the next day she came in, I was also bartending, and I was like, hey, how was the rest of your night? And she was like, I don't really remember it, but I did have to go buy a Plan B today. And I was like, yeah. And I like if I knew what happened the night before, right? I knew how drunk she got. And and so for me, it's like, sometimes you don't need to explain the entire 10 paragraphs of what it is. It's like, it's a shorthand, I think. And like anybody that's ever partied too hard or done things that they were like, oh, that was not like the best decision, it's like that's the thing. It's real life. It's stuff it's stuff that my friends and I talk about all the time. So like, why shouldn't that be in a song? And when we were writing that song, it was at this really great writer's workshop here in Nashville with this amazing songwriter named Bonnie Baker. She was hosting it. And I got paired with these awesome writers, Sumiko Sprinkle and Cameron Newby. And we were talking about how we all grew up like being the perfect kid. And we all had our different like reasons to have to do that and to do that. Sometimes it was because of our own neuroses and our own personalities and whatnot. But it's like when you make a mistake, we beat ourselves up so much. And we're not realizing that everybody makes mistakes. And it's not even a mistake. Everybody is wildly diverse and different, because like some of the things in this song are not, there's nothing wrong with being gay. Obviously I'm gay, but there's nothing wrong with being, needing reproductive rights or things like that. There's nothing wrong with any of this, but it's stuff that we all hide so much, but it's real life. And we talk about it all the time. If I've had so many friends here in Nashville who are like gay dudes from small towns who were the quarterback on their football team. And they tell me that, oh yeah, I was the quarterback and the homecoming king, but I was really like a closeted gay and tormented and hated myself and wanted to kill myself. And it's like, this is the real stories people have told me. And so I was like, fuck it. I want to make an album that talks about all this real stuff, So I definitely just rambled. So I understand why you give me that preamble. Yeah. But also, like, I hate preachiness. And I think if I was to make a song that was like, we should all be allowed to be whoever we want, I mean, like, I wouldn't listen to that. So
yeah, like the kumbaya kind of
yeah. I don't even listen to that. So why would I expect anybody else to listen to that? And so I was like, I think it's better just to tell true stories of things that my friends and I have lived, so that's and strangers also, like, that's basically what this album is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to unpack a lot of what you just mentioned there, because that's one of those things that I have written down here is about how, I guess there's probably like 3 or 4 things I want to talk about, but we'll go with this first thing first. And that's you're taking like, if we go back to that first line, you're taking like a situation that there's a lot of songs out there that are about bad decisions, or not necessarily, as you said, not necessarily bad decisions, but decisions where, you drank over the last night and you don't remember what happened necessarily.
Exactly.
There's a lot of songs like that. This one right here, as you said, like you just you captured that feeling, that feeling of even just the hangoverness, if you will.
Yeah.
In just like a couple of seconds. And I think that's like such a great way of just capturing that the essence, that mood of the song.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Going forward though, like what I really, I guess, have feel like you tap into with this, it has been, and I guess in a relationship to the addition of Atlantic City by Springsteen on here.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I think we all kind of think of Springsteen as capturing America, right? Just the small town American dream, if you will, or like the breakdown of that dream. And Atlantic City is very much like, even though it's a quote unquote newer folk song, it feels like it's like rooted in, tradition, thousands of years, right? Or something
Absolutely.
like that. And what I think like you do with that, that edition of that song specifically, I think helps show that like a lot of these characters are in that same world, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. And
I guess like my question off of that is, I'm guessing like that was intentional as well, just to show that these realms are the same realm, that these characters, these people who are feeling like they're black sheep from small towns are still in that same world as your traditional, quote unquote, traditional characters of American folk, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, I would almost go to say that song inspired the album. I've loved that song for years, and I've dabbled with covering it a lot, but it wasn't until the pandemic and I just saw how much everybody was struggling. And that song has always resonated with me, but it really resonated last year. And I grew up on the coast, so like California and Massachusetts. And I grew up in Massachusetts in a really working class town that really just has, it's like a fishing town. It's called New Bedford, Massachusetts. And Springsteen's music has always reminded me of New Bedford, which is where, I partially grew up. And so every time I hear that song, I was like, so when I first heard the band's version of it, I was like, this is like a country, Western, Southern song, but it is such like a Northeastern, gritty, working class industrial vibe, which is where I'm from. Mm-hmm. So, and I love that because my last album, people always ask me about the country aspect. I was like, you guys are picking up on country in that I tell stories. And it is one of the last remaining genres of music where people told stories, like explicit stories. Because folk music, sure, people do that, but folk music can be a lot of different things, right?
Right.
And for me, with this album, I was like, I want to do what Bruce did with Atlantic City. I want to write a very specific songs, plural, about normal people who are struggling and still trying to find the joys and pleasures and a reason to live in everyday life. And I wanted to include Atlantic City in there as like a Northeastern aspect, because I know that there's a lot of people are like, it's a Midwestern heartland album, and I'm like, it's not really actually, because like I'm not from there, but like a lot of the album couldn't happen anywhere, I mean, that's where I grew up, in New Bedford and parts of San Diego, right? Like, but I'm not going to argue with people. Like, if they want to do that, then it's whatever they want it to be, right? Like, I added Atlantic City there as like a homage, like, and it kind of inspired the whole album, honestly, to bring it together. And I don't know if that answered it. I might not have had enough coffee for this yet.
No, I think it does. And I find that, I don't know, I just find that really, really interesting. I guess like your commentary on where specifically like that Nebraska record is, because yeah, people will just like fight about the regionalism of where that is, where like the overall intentions is not necessarily where that region is, but regionalism in general, because I grew up in West Texas, and there's moments in that where you feel like, oh, I know that person, even though like these people may have, Springsteen was probably writing about someone that he had an idea of somewhere far from West Texas or wherever, right. But like there is that prototype character wherever.
Right, exactly. It's funny, West Texas, my girlfriend is from out there.
Where's she from?
She grew up in, shout out to Grace. Hi. She grew up in Hobbs, New Mexico, but her family all lives in Lubbock. So area. Well, yeah.
That's where I'm at right now, in Lubbock.
Right on. So. Totally right on.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has long been the heart and soul of the Lubbock singer-songwriter scene and has been a home away from home for some of Texas, Americana, country, and rock and roll's finest over the years. Talk with 99.9% of the songwriters who have come out of Lubbock and the Panhandle at large over the past 20 years, and they'll point to just how integral and necessary the Blue Light is. With live music and touring slowly but surely coming back, spots like the Blue Light are getting back to their usual ways as well. That means music every night of the week. Do you want to see that schedule? Well, I've got a few options for you. 1, go to their socials and give them a follow. That is at Blue Light Live on Twitter, at The Blue Light Live on Instagram, and of course by just searching The Blue Light Live on Facebook. They're consistently posting that week's lineup of shows, as well as those heavy hitters that ought to be on your calendar that are coming up on the horizon. 2, check out bluelightlubbock.com as well. There they have the full schedule, the cover charges, time, any of those specials that may be happening. While there, go check out their merch page. They have a wide range of hats, koozies, hoodies, sweaters, beanies, jackets, and so much more. You can, of course, get all of your merch needs when you go see your favorite band take the stage at Blue Light. Just ask the bartender and they will get you all set. Speaking of which, that's another great way of seeing who's playing there. Just go to the Blue Light. It's at 1806 Buddy Holly Avenue here in Lubbock, Texas. And of course, again, that is bluelightlubbock.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes too. Maybe I'll see you there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Hobbs, New Mexico. Yeah. Have you been out here? I'm assuming.
I've driven through it because to go to California, I'll drive that way, and my cousin lives in Dallas. So yeah, I've crisscrossed the country a bunch, but I haven't been out with her. So I'm headed out there probably in February. So yeah, fun, exciting.
Yeah, she'll show you all the I don't know. I'm going to try and make fun of Hobbs here. The Walmart parking lots or something like that.
Well, I know she went to Texas Tech, so she's going to have to show me her alma mater.
Okay, yeah.
I can't, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to cross paths at that point, yeah.
Sounds good. So, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Going back to these songs, though, these characters.
Yeah.
I guess, I feel like this is maybe... this is one of those weird places as far as just being as far as my observations from being just a white guy, a white straight guy. And that is maybe, or mainly white. I'm half Mexican. It doesn't really matter.
Oh,
but
right
the whole thing about these are interesting characters because they are, from pockets of America that aren't necessarily being talked about on the radio. They're not these characters aren't being played. They don't have other songs on Top 40 Country or something like that.
Right.
Is that I don't know. Is that
on purpose?
Yeah, no, not necessarily on purpose, but is that something where are we describing these characters as interesting or eccentric or vulnerable just because of that, or do you feel these characters does that make it where they're almost not real? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are we looking at them as oddities as opposed to humans?
Something like that.
Yeah, for me, I went about it every song kind of started with something really personal. So there was a song about there's a song in there that deals directly with some breakups and addiction type stuff that I have dealt with and that people that I love have dealt with. But then instead of I've done that on my other albums where I just kind of write a journal about how I feel about heartbreak. And I was that's really boring. And for me now, so I just wanted to flesh it out and turn it into characters that were not me, and that is kind of every song on this album, comes from a really personal place. And then I was the other co-writers came from their personal place for them too. And then we're well, we don't want it to be about us, even though it's about us. Does that make sense? So every single one, we just happen to in one of them, we have it be a middle-aged lady who's, chain smoking cigarettes. And I would really like to go on a yacht with, really definitely would love to go to the beach with her. That's the hustle. She's my hero. She's my number one hero on the whole album. But yeah, I actually love these people. And when I originally was making the album, I thought I was going to call it Happy Hour. And my idea was going to be a happy hour of bar regulars that you see all the time. And, but then it was my sister Rosie was you really got to call it Golden Child. And I was yeah, you're right. You're right. So. Yeah,
that's okay. So I do love the, I don't know, the context of thinking about it, calling it Happy Hour, because one of the things that you'll see within a lot of these songs is like the mentioning of like, I guess like late night supermarket aisle type of stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it's like the happy hour aspects, but like, I almost feel like these are people that I've not necessarily even run into at a bar, but like again, if we're going to go to the Walgreens example,
Yeah.
at like 3 a.m, like looking for something to grab on the way home. And like, where like at a bar, almost like you're kind of like, oh, we're in this same like glow of like, okay, this is, we're having fun. The
it's the
Walgreens
equalizer.
at Walgreens at like, you know, sometime in the, early morning, late night, you're almost like, oh, you didn't see me here, please don't tell people.
Yeah, exactly. Especially buying the plan B. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like, that's like I don't know, that I find that a little humorous in some respects, is like, where this is like the shame of of life is like shopping at Walgreens
the next
night.
morning. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or like you're on a road trip, and yeah, I mean, the other title of this could have been Walgreens. I think every single character in this could have gotten something there. So
yeah, that now you need the Walgreens sponsorship.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I shop there quite often.
We can get you a cardboard cutout.
I would really love that.
Selling the records right there by the front somewhere.
It would be great, with every novelty item mentioned in it. Walgreens roses, Gatorade, Plan B.
Yeah. They already have them bagged for you if you just need to go in and get the special.
It's the Mercy Bell special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were talking about with creative writing, and you mentioned journaling at one point in here. I feel like I think I've read somewhere that you do a whole lot of that, as far as,
I do,
you know, writing. Maybe, I don't know if it's on a daily basis or anything like that, but how much of that helps, I guess, like, set the palette or set the stage, if you will, for your songwriting? How much does that inform the way you're able to, I don't know if you're plucking lines or anything like that from what you're writing beforehand? How much does that inform, I guess, your songwriting?
A lot. I would say it's probably the number one thing I do, other than just constantly sing and hum. Like, as I'm washing dishes, I'm just always singing, and sometimes it turns into a hook. But I am always writing. I just always have a notepad or a journal or my phone. And if I think of something that might be a good line, I write it down. I have boxes and boxes of old journals that I've had over the years. And I don't always do it just for creativity. I do it a lot for kind of just like mental health and decompressing. But yeah, I've been journaling since I was a kid. And a lot of it is just gibberish and nonsense, but there's a lot of catharsis and kind of clarity that comes from doing that. So I have found it's probably one of my number one resources for writing songs. And the more I journal, the more songs I get. So yeah, it's really important. And sometimes the only thing that comes out of it is like a line, which then turns into the rest of the song. And that happens pretty easily if I can get that like one line. So like, even with Golden Child, I threw out, it was on the spot. So I do a lot of on the spot writing too. If it's a co-write, there's a level of kind of flow and adrenaline that really helps with that. But yeah, I definitely threw out that Plan B and a Gatorade, because I remember somebody had said that once to me, one of my friends, you know, and I remembered it. I just remembered it. So yeah, like sometimes it's just journaling, is just like writing down things of note, you know. I recommend it. If anybody feels stuck in their life creatively, whatever your medium is, whether it's painting or photography or dancing or whatever, I really recommend journaling, or like kind of getting your inner thoughts out onto paper or a collage, or just get it out of yourself. And nobody else should see it. It should just be for you, because you need to feel it.
This episode is in part brought to you by Charlie Stout Photography. Charlie Stout has long been a great buddy of mine. And for as long as I've known him, he's always had a good eye. A good eye for ideas, for lines in a song, and notably, an eye for what makes a great photograph. Yes, we're gonna roll with that tried and true cliche about a great photographer having a good eye. But it's cliche for a reason. More often than not, it means it's true. Right now, I want y'all to head on over to charliestout.com to get an idea of what I'm talking about. While you're at it, go give him a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Charlie Stout. Right now, he has about 50 photographs for sale on charliestout.com, with a vast majority of those being landscapes and sky shots of West Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The American Southwest, if you will. A lot of cacti and clouds, windmills and open roads, sunsets and stardust. He captures a lot of what I love about West Texas and these dry, arid climates. That's mainly that vast emptiness that can really make you feel small. The depth and the weight and the intensity, it's all in there. Right now, he's doing a special on his prints. Each week, he releases a new photo, and for 1 week only, that photograph is at a special introductory rate. For just $25, you'll get an 8.5 by 11. That's just about half off the regular price. For $75, you can get a 13 by 19, and for $110, you can get a 17 by 22. After the week, they go back to regular prices, which are still an absolute steal if you ask me. Also, just a pro tip, keep a watchful eye out on his Twitter. He's consistently posting one-offs, errors, and randoms on there that are for sale that are in the flash sale variety. Again, that is at Charlie Stout for Twitter and Instagram. Head on over to charliestout.com, grab a signed print, buy a record, get yourself some nature sounds and some nature shots. All right, let's get back to the episode. Right. That's something interesting right there is we're in such a society where we have to share everything.
You really don't. I mean,
feel compelled, at least what I mean, as far as, I need to post these on Instagram. Oh, I need to do this. And that's an interesting thing some things to just keep for yourself.
Yeah, I think that you deserve to practice in peace, for real. Like, I think that you do. So my two of my siblings are really wonderful artists, illustrators, and they do that for a living. And they're younger than me, and they used to just draw all the time as kids, and they would just fill up every ounce of spare paper with test scribbles, and they were hilarious. And to me, as somebody who can't draw, I thought it was the coolest thing. And I was like, can I put this on the wall or whatever? And they'd be like, no, those are the uglies. We're just getting the uglies out. And I was like, that's freedom and liberation right there, to practice, to rehearse, to athletes get to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. They get to train, and they'll do micro movements with resist. I just came back from MMA practice. So I'm fresh off of that. We did the exact same form. My trainer, his name's Luke Sanders, and he was like, you got to get the punch down the right way. You got to do it. I think he was quoting Bruce Lee. He's like, you got to do it 10,000 times to do it well once. And I was like, yeah. And so all that to say is artists deserve to mess up, not even mess up, to practice in peace and get out these crazy ideas and get it out and figure it out. And if that's journaling, if that's iPhone memos, if that's the uglies, if that is 3,000 photos on your iPhone, to do it, if that's just dancing in your underwear at 3 a.m., do it.
Yeah, I love that right there, because so one of my big things with especially with art and specifically with songwriting is we often will romanticize the process, where it's we think of artists as you just did it perfect the first time. And you know what I'm saying? That's I think one of the main things is, as far as it's just God-given talent, and I woke up and I just did it. And obviously that takes away all the work before the process of getting to that point. And allow yourself some of that freedom of practice, because
Yeah.
you know, no one wakes up and is, I mean, I'm sure there are people who can wake up and just they were just naturally great at writing the song or something, but you know, all of this takes work. All of this takes the practice. And like, even, you know, I don't necessarily journal. I do like just write a bunch of stuff, because I think that like that gets you to the point of where maybe you are ready to whatever it is that you need to, whatever your task is, if it is writing a song or something in art, or for my example here, when I'm writing an article or writing something about somebody, I think like you have to like get to that point where it's where it does come easy, where you're not thinking about all of the things that you've been working on to get to
it becomes
point.
muscle memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, I think like sometimes artists, or we get the idea that like that's not necessary, or like I'll be a writer whenever I'm a writer, versus like
I think that I think the idea of not being able to mess up is dangerous. And I mean, that's what my whole first song is about, but it's like messing up isn't even the right word. It's like freedom to play and freedom to practice. And I'm definitely stealing a lot from two of my icons, like Esther Perel, who's a therapist, and Elizabeth Gilbert, who's an incredible writer. They both stress a lot in the need for curiosity, play, and mischief in everything you do, and especially art and creativity. It's like, it doesn't need to be consumed. You don't need to do this to consume other things. Like, you don't need to, this doesn't have to go on Spotify. This doesn't have to, if you're going to write something, like you just said, you're going to write something, do it for the joy of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's practice, and that's practice and play and curiosity. I don't even like to use the word messing it up. You know, it's just practice. It's rehearsal. You can't just read Hamlet once and then put it on the stage at the Globe Theater. You have to rehearse it for 9 months, you know, like you have to have, I remember I did theater for quite a while in high school and in college. And they always said, like, if you have a bad dress rehearsal, you're going to have a great performance. And I think that that's just one thing where I really relish, having had a lot of training in different art forms, sports, things like that. It's like everybody else lets you rehearse and practice. And it's for some reason in this world of like songwriting and whatever, think that it has to come out perfect the first. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. No, you know, it doesn't have to be. No.
Yeah. Like the sandbox element. Like, I remember, like I used to like love as a kid, like computer games where you're like city building and stuff like that, like Sim City kind of stuff, where I guess like there was always like a quote unquote like a campaign element of like, you know, this is the campaign of doing that. I always just loved the free build, like the sandbox thing, and I think like a lot of things would call it sandbox. That's the reason. And that, to me, that was like I don't know. And this is, now that I'm thinking about it, as a kid, I almost loved like more setting up play versus actually the actual like playing something. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know.
Because it's more liberating. And I remember thinking about this. It's like I remember learning Spanish, and my Spanish is still pretty bad, but like I remember like trying to speak it, and I really don't care about messing up or making mistakes or not doing things perfectly. And so like I'll just go balls to the wall with it. And I remember somebody being like, "Oh, you actually try it." And I was like, "Yeah, my Spanish is bad," but they're like, "I actually try it." And so many people are like afraid of messing up. And it's not because they're just like egotistical. It's because there's such a culture of like being shamed in this country, at least, for making a quote unquote mistake. And it's like, how are you going to learn anything if you don't get to try it? You know, it's like, I mean, like, maybe that's because I grew up as like, I'm part Filipino, and I grew up in a very multicultural world. So it's like, you just see people like doing their best to communicate all the time. And so, I mean, I don't know, that just translates to me to art. You just try it. Just try it. Curiosity.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like there is a, um, there's, you get those, like those, butterflies at like, oh, am I going to fail? Or like whatever the case, the first time you do it. And a lot of times, I think a lot of that is clearly rooted in childhood as far
Yeah.
as like, were you, cheered on, or were you like told like, you're a loser because you didn't do it the first
Yeah.
time or whatever. But I wanted to go back and like a couple of other questions about some of your other songs that aren't
Go for it.
on this. And one of the songs that really I gravitated towards was, and this is something that like I feel this is an older song of yours, and that's All Good Cowboys, where of
Yeah.
course like that song, I guess you originally recorded it in 11 and then you revisited it for your self-titled. Can you go back and like talk a little bit about, I guess, like the evolution of that song and the where it's rooted and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, my grandfather, who was one of my main babysitters growing up, was from Georgia. And so he was like old school Southern guy, but he was my babysitter and he loved cowboys. So like cowboys were his everywhere you looked in my house or like wherever he was living at the point was just like cowboy stuff. And so as a little kid there was that like mythos of the cowboy, and I grew up in San Diego until I was 12, until I moved to the east, and we drove across the country. And I remember that just being like this like pivotal experience of just like being so heartbroken of like leaving everything I'd ever known, but at the same time being like full of wonder, like driving across the country and heartbroken at the same time. So I was just like, what is this? So like for me, for a very long time and sort of until now, I kind of had this feeling of like not having a home, even though that's not true. I've had many homes. I'm incredibly loved. It's just one of my neuroses that I'm working on in therapy. But, and for me, my mom always, her nickname for me was Cowboy. Cause like I was just always on the move. And so that was kind of where like that iconography came from. But when I wrote that song, I was still struggling with my sexuality. I hadn't come out of the closet yet. And I was really worried that I was not going to be accepted, which I was ultimately. I mean, there was some hardship, but I mean, I'm very accepted. But I was really worried. And that's a song about like being loved for who you are. And also, not being loved for who you are and just constantly moving to like find a place where you are loved. So that's kind of where that came from. And then as over the years, like the more I play certain songs, like the more it grows with me and the more it like gains meaning. And that one will always have an incredible amount of meaning to me. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of an esoteric, description of it, but, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no. Like I felt there was a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
What I think like what you do though, what I love about like you kind of borrowing the language of like the mythos of the cowboy as you talk about, because one of the things I always love about, and if you look at like any cowboy, it doesn't matter when the cowboy movie is out or any of the art related to a cowboy, it's always about, the frontier closing. And it could be like the quote unquote beginning of the frontier, but it's always like, well, the West has already been conquered or some shit like that. And
Yeah.
that's something that like is always, you always return to, I guess, in a lot of like cowboy culture kind of stuff. But,
Yeah.
I think like in, a lot of people always will talk about how, well, no, like the frontier is never like closed. Like there's
No.
always going to
Yeah.
be a frontier. And
Always.
I think I don't know. I love like that, I guess like that bridge between a lot of that language and your own story and just kind of feeling like that. Where is home? Where is the, that frontier, whereas
Yeah.
where all that like mixes together,
And the funny thing is, like, and this goes a little bit more, but everything I do is kind of like rooted in. So my dad's side of the family is like New England, like old school New England, and also Scotland. Like they came over like not too long ago from Scotland. So like that's like its own ancient culture, which I don't know, maybe I'll do a sea shanty album next. Who knows? We can go into like Celtic New England music. It's gorgeous. It's very sad, but it's very gorgeous. I just would need to find like the right instrumentalists. I'm sure that they exist, but my mom's side of the family, so my granddaddy, the southern side, the Burkhalters are all from Georgia and like southern. And then my Filipino side, my grandmother, right after World War II, went to school in Minnesota, and there's like this gorgeous photo of her, this like beautiful, she was so beautiful, like beautiful Filipino lady, like looking out over the Badlands and the Dakotas. And I just remember seeing that photo as a kid being like, she's so badass. And she would carry, like, she survived World War II on the run in the mountains in the Philippines, and like surviving occupation, of the invading armies and stuff. And she, as an adult, I mean, as my grandmother, like she worked at a jewelry shop in like a super fancy part of San Diego. And she was a gun owner, and she was a crack shot, and she would disappear for hours at a time. I'd be like, where did she go? Where did my grandmother go? My Lila is like, so the Filipino word for grandmother is Lola, but I couldn't say it. So it was Lila. Where did my Lila go? And she'd be at the gun range, just like tiny, gorgeous Asian lady who's a crack shot, who could probably put a lot of these NRA guys to shame. And I was just like, that's my grandmother. And then her dad, my great grandmother, my great Lolo, which is a grandfather in Tagalog, was a mining student, a mining engineer in Colorado in the 1920s and 1930s. Like he was a freaking cowboy, like Deadwood, like that's some Deadwood stuff. And then he went back to the Philippines and created these like mines that saved tons of people's lives from bombings during World War II. And it's just like, I come from a long line of really intrepid mofos. Like, to be honest, like that's it. They're all really intrepid. They're really brave. And my granddaddy was like in the Air Force, and he left Georgia, and he flew across, he ended up living in the Philippines and meeting my grandmother. And like, so I come from a world of these people who can't sit still, and it's like, there's so many clashing's the wrong word. There's so many vibrant images of people who just keep going. And even on like the my dad's side, there's a great grandmother who's like in the frontier of Saskatchewan and like in the woods, and like it's a bunch of people just surviving, like whatever history is throwing at them. So, right. Like I know that's a lot, but it's really hard to explain how much my family history and the stories I grew up with influence everything I write in terms of the mythology and iconography and stuff. So symbolism.
I want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer up a quick Thomas Mooney's cocktail minute. As I've said probably 100 times by now, by no means am I a seasoned mixologist or bartender, but these have been some of my Desert Door go-tos. For starters, let's just go with the tried and true ranch water. Pop the top off the Topo Chico, take a good swig, now pour in some Desert Door, and top it off by throwing in a few lime wedges. Never fails. This one, it's so simple it probably doesn't even count, but again, pretty foolproof. Do the exact same thing, but get you a Mexican Coca-Cola. I guess you can go with a regular one, but you're really cutting yourself short if you don't opt for the Mexican import variety. All right, here's the change-up you've been waiting for. Desert Door Sangria. This one is prime for when you have company coming over and you aren't wanting to just be over there making 6 different drinks at a time. What you'll need is some Desert Door, obviously, a bottle of red wine, honey, boiling water, apple cider vinegar, some cinnamon sticks, a couple of apples, and some thyme sprigs. I know, that may sound intimidating, but trust me, it's worth the prep, and honestly, it's pretty easy. For starters, get you a punch bowl, add that honey, those cinnamon sticks, and the boiling water together. Now you're going to want to stir that all up and let it cool down for about an hour or so. Remember, patience is a virtue. Once that's done, add some Desert Door and stir vigorously. Now add the wine, the cider, and the vinegar, and continue stirring until it's equally mixed. Now slice those apples up and toss them in. Put in those thyme sprigs as well. Now you can pour that over some ice and you have a mighty fine sangria. Chef's kiss. Anyway, those have been some of my favorite go-tos as of late. And remember, Desert Door is as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, complex, and intriguing than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whether you decide to keep it simple or want to experiment, Desert Door is that perfect Texas spirit. There's plenty more recipes over at desertdoor.com as well. Check out the show notes for a link. All right, let's get back to the episode. I think that, like, you know, that's one of those things where it just kind of gets ingrained in a family as far as like that mentality. What I hear in a lot of that right there is, I guess, like the idea of like the quote unquote like the second sons, if you will, because, you know, like the first son takes over the family business or the whatever, if we're going to go back to, you know, the Aaron
literary
line, right?
Yeah.
And like often, like, you know, the kids after were the ones who went out to the, you know, the edge of the world, quote unquote.
Yeah,
or like left.
exactly.
And like, I feel like there's a lot of that in there with your
Oh,
family.
yeah, that would be my whole family on both sides. Yeah, exactly. Like on both sides, like, and it's just my whole childhood was growing up of hearing about all these people who just never sat still. Even now today, people are like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, that is a complicated question. That is very complicated. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and I, even as a kid, I gravitated towards, pardon me, Johnny Cash, you know, because he's this outlaw who sings from his heart and mind, speaks his mind, and was a badass, you know. And like, to me that, and he's haunted, but he like overcame his hauntedness, you know, and to me he was one of my heroes from a very young age. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely relate to kind of like the outlaw mythos also. So not that I'm pretty boring. I go to bed really early when I'm not bartending. So, and my partying days are over. Thank the Lord. Yeah. I can't.
Well, like the Johnny Cash thing is like, there's that incredible balance of being the epic badass, right? Like telling these big stories, but then also at the same time being like, you know, sharing off both, I guess, like that hardened edge, but then the vulnerability behind it. Like I am human too, kind of.
Yeah. And like he died after June died because of a broken heart. I mean, I don't know. That's just like the mythology. And I'm sure that country music people will be like, that's not true. But like, that was what like the image that came to mind. Right. So, and if you get corrections, I accept the corrections. I'm not Googling things live as we speak right now, but, yeah, I love juxtapositions and the great Walt Whitman quote of like, do I contradict myself? I contradict myself. I am, dang it, I forget how the rest of the quote goes. I contain multitudes. Yeah. And I love that. It's just like, you don't have to be either or. And I actually shun that because I am like, from a very young age, had to grow up realizing I'm a lot of things. I'm not white. I'm not completely Filipino. I'm not Eastern or Western. I'm not Southern, as in the United States. Then I was like, oh, I'm not gay or straight. I mean, I'm bisexual. See what I'm saying? It's like, I don't get the choice of being one thing. So I don't know. I kind of, and it's, once you get over like the difficult aspect of it, it's incredibly liberating. And I just really want everybody else to feel that way. I want everybody to just get more free, honestly.
Right. Yeah. Like people aren't in this like binary code. You're not a 0 or a
Yeah.
1. And I'm sure like there's been a lot of that throughout history forever. But like specifically here, I feel like you have to like, or you feel pressure to cut out all the nuance of a person.
Yeah. And
And
that's so
yeah,
boring.
it's such a, like, I don't know, like, cause like Twitter is very, very, the beauty of Twitter is that it's limited characters, but then like you, what I always hate is like when you say something and people just generalize what you're saying and they want
Mm-hmm.
to point out like, well, there's this exception. You're like, yes, there's always exceptions, and this isn't like the rule. This isn't like the rule to what I'm talking about. But
Right.
like, allow a little bit of nuance in what I'm trying to say, you know.
Yeah,
But
honestly, a lot of that world of culture of just like debating, like that level of nitpicking and debate
hmm
goes against everything you learn in relationship therapy. Like and I have been in every kind of therapy. And one of the big things that they teach you in like relationship therapy, like any kind of relationship, like getting to know other people, is the level of grace and listening you need to extend to somebody else. And what the Gottmans like to say, assuming positive intent. And I know that people are gonna be like, well, you can't always. Yeah, but it's like, if you really want, are you trying to win a debate, or are you trying to foster healthy relationships? And it's like, so to me, learning how to listen to people has been one of the biggest things I've ever done. And listening means to like not just always looking to tear somebody else down. So I mean, that's it served me a lot as a bartender, for sure.
oh, absolutely. And as a songwriter, because you know, I always think like empathy is probably the best quality to have as a songwriter. And I think like what a lot of people do is they don't listen with that in mind. You're just, even if you're not trying to win the debate, you're almost always, you have to teach yourself to not just like wait for your turn to talk.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of times, even I don't want to say it's a struggle, but I think like I have to like remind myself to, even in like a situation like this where I'm like, don't think about like what you're going to ask next. Like just listen to what they're saying, because you're going to miss something, even on a very, very basic journalism, interviewing someone or talking to someone kind of way. But
I mean, I
yeah,
think it's a fine line that that you, yes, we want to listen in a way that isn't interrupting, but you also, there's a moment when you feel like you connect with something, and you get excited. And I think there's a beauty in that also. So I think it's like, it's the balance. It's those like micro muscles of life that we really have to focus on. And like learning how to healthfully listen, and also, validate and react, and like also assert ourselves. Like they're all very important life skills. So I think it's not something you can actually just kind of sum up in like a cool meme or a tweet. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. They have whole programs and therapeutic modalities for this shit. So yeah, which
yeah,
is, yeah. I mean, it's just like, everybody just like embrace the nuance, y'all.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about like your I love 90s country. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming like you're around my age, which would make you like a 90s kid. Um
Yeah, I'm 36.
okay, yeah. So like I'm 33.
Nice.
And that's okay, that's something right there where I feel like most people like, this is going to be my nitpick criticism, and it's going to be a small one. Most people who think they're like 90s kids, I'm like, no, you can't be like born in like 95 and be a 90s kid.
No. No.
Like, you have to be like rooted a little bit
No.
early. But so anyways, I feel like you're very much grew up in that time when there was that 90s explosion where, you know, even if you're talking about, always on the move, kind of being a coast kid living out in LA and in the upper Northeast, 90s country, I feel, had to be accessible for a lot of folks, regardless of where you are from, where maybe like country was more of a Southern or an Appalachia or a West Texas or a Texas thing in previous iterations of country. Do you feel like that, like it was easy? Was 90s country accessible for you, even if you weren't, always like wearing a cowboy hat and Wranglers and boots and, riding a horse to school, quote unquote?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I liked it because like I have always been a pop fiend. I love pop. And when the thing I like about 90s country is not what country purists like about 90s country. I like it because it is crossover and mainstream. And it is these like great pop hooks, and it is Shania, and Faith Hill. And like, it is crossover. It is quote unquote watered down. And I'm sure country purists are going to yell and scream about it, but it's like, that's why I like it. I love pop music, but it's also really great lyrics. Like you have Fancy, like that Reba's song Fancy, like it's so good and it's so catchy and poppy, but it's also so dark and like brave, you know what I mean? So it's like, I just, that's why I love it. You can have a moment where it's like this super great cross, and in my dream of dreams would be a day where there are like pop songs on the top 40 that are doing these brave, intense, specific lyrics, I mean, and some people, they're going in that direction, like Sia for sure is, and like, or was, I don't know where she's doing these days. I think hip hop gets as close as we can, get there to, I don't even know what I'm saying, but like, that's the thing is like, I love that because it was so mainstream and crossover. And yet it was bringing this kind of like witticism and this kind of like lyricism that a lot of pop music doesn't have, which I love pop. I love pop, but I also love lyrics. And it has been a lifetime of trying to reconcile the two. Someday I'll do it.
Yeah. 90s was like, as far as with country, we were at like, it was just like the right balance of those pop sensibilities.
Yeah.
And like the smart, clever lyrics you just felt like, oh, like that was just so perfectly worded. No, it's not too many words, not like enough. Like it's just like that right balance of like what was happening there.
Yeah. And it's not like 15 verses, which is like, I love folk music. I have spent a lot of time in folk music, but I could never be like a real folk singer because I can't remember all the 15 verses of the Ballad of Dying Sally or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I can't. And like that, I don't think that song exists, but maybe I should write it. But like, that's the thing I love about it. And so whenever people are like, I am not a country purist, I come from a pop background for real. It's just that it's like country music, the lyrics are so great. They're so great. And as like a writer, as somebody who studied short stories and prose and poetry and stuff, like it is so irresistible. And as somebody who grew up with a Southern granddaddy who spoke a lot like the way that these songs are written, like it is irresistible to me. So, but it's like, that's the pop element of the 90s stuff that I freaking love. It's just, I love pop music and like that. I love mixing things and turning it into a shmush. So then the Dixie Chicks are like my number one, or the Chicks are my number one favorite band of all time, up there with ABBA. So it's like, and you know what they did? They just went full send. Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course, like Natalie, Lubbock roots, Lubbock born. So,
yeah, girl.
Yeah. She was, I don't know. It's so weird. We don't have to go in the route of like stupid people burning records here in Lubbock back in the day. I still think there's probably people out there who are like, blah, blah about it. But I always loved just how, they're one of the, I love bands that you feel like you're growing with them at the same rate that they are. And usually they're a little bit older than you. And that's like what, I don't know, there's more attached to that. But yeah, the great pop sense, the great like growth. Like at one point, like you just kind of, I was like, oh my gosh, like the Dixie Chicks or the Chicks aren't like their moms now. You know what I mean? And like they're writing about like, adult things. And even when they were like in their 20s, like there was always that feeling of like, you could feel like that transition of that Not
Oh,
yet, not
absolutely.
a girl or not a teenager,
Not yet a
even
woman.
early, yeah. And it was just like that great balance of trying to find what you were, or like who
Yeah.
you're going to be.
And their album Home is like probably my favorite album of all time, and it's like it's a folk masterpiece to me, because it does what great folk music is supposed to do, and it also like kind of introduced the world at large to Patty Griffin, who is my number one hero. The incredible folk musician and songwriter, and like just. Oh, it's perfect. Like I can listen to that top to bottom, beginning to end, forever and all time. Amen. But yeah, I mean, there's my all hail the Dixie Chicks, the Chicks, all hail the Chicks.
Top of the World is
just
like,
ugh.
Yeah.
No, that song has the lyric that I wish I wrote, when she's like, I pretend to be sleeping when you walked in the morning to whisper goodbye, go to work in the rain. I don't know why. That's all she needs to say. And you know everything about this freaking couple, how they are alone together. They are lonely. And it's like, you are looking back at the rest of your life and like everything you need to know. I don't know why. Why did you do that? Like, but we've all been there where we're like ignoring somebody we're supposed to love, and it's brilliant. Patty Griffin is a patron saint, like incredible. So
yeah, no, she's absolutely wonderful. 1,000 Kisses, like that record is like, that's one of those records. It's on the short list of, if I could just see an artist play a record at a show,
that
like
one.
That would be, it's on the short list.
Yes.
I've seen her one time here in Lubbock, and it was just like
amazing.
Yeah, it was one of those. Again, this is like a modern cultural thing of like trying to like, I need to capture it versus just live in it. And I just kept telling myself, no, just like let it be right here. You don't have to like
just exist. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I saw her once, and it was like, I was just like jaw dropped the entire time. And she played one of her newer albums that I don't know as well, but I was like, it doesn't matter. It's Patty. So
absolutely.
Patty, I love you.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Hopefully she is listening to this.
Patty, we love you.
So, but yeah, I absolutely love her. I've loved this conversation right here.
Yeah, it's been a good one. It's been fun. Like it feels like it doesn't feel like work or anything. It feels like I'm like, I have a good chat.
All right, that is it for this episode. Go check out Golden Child by Mercy Bell. Visit our pals over at Desert Door, The Blue Light Live, and Charlie Stout Photography. Go pre-order The Lubbock Way, a collection of wallflower vignettes by me. And yeah, I'll see y'all later in the week for more new slang.